Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
Good evening to you. We are joining you with a special interview outside of our studios here in Colombo. We are going to talk to a special guest who is in the country for a short time. It's amazing how simple things done with a big heart echoes its way and turns out to be something great. We are going to talk to the president of Rotary International, Mr. Ian Risley, who is here. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you.
Thank you very much for agreeing to sit down with us to talk about the projects that you are doing here.
Pleasure to be with you.
Let me at the outset ask you, there are various organizations in the world, various organizations that do what you do at Rotary International. Why did you choose Rotary?
Oh, because I knew a little about it, and I joined, frankly, for the friendship and the fellowship that I knew was there, and also for the business opportunities, to be fair. It's only after I became involved that I realised exactly the extent of the great work that's done in the name of Rotary right around the world.
Now you're at the helm of Rotary. Rotary, obviously, which is the clubs that are operating here in our country, have their vision. Their vision comes from the governor who is in charge. But the president of Rotary International also has a vision, and that vision funnels down to all of its member countries, 201 countries. What is your vision for Rotary?
Well, it could be encapsulated in the theme that we have each year, and the theme that I've asked Rotary to adopt this year is Rotary Making a Difference. And I think that's what Rotary does every single day. We make a difference in all sorts of parts of the world, in all sorts of ways. Rotary does wonderful work, and I want the people to keep on doing the wonderful work that they are doing.
How do you see the transition between what was the great work done by your predecessor and when you took over the helm or the leadership of Rotary International? How did you see that transition?
We have worked very closely together, from the president before me and the one before him, and now me with my successors, because it's really important that we do have continuity in what we do. We don't go from one area to another and change direction. We have to be strategically planned, and we are.
When we talk about all the projects that are being carried out by Rotary, massive projects being carried out, even small projects being carried out across the globe, that's the key word here. Rotary is operating in 201 countries. When you take a look at all of these countries, where do you see your attention being drawn to the most?
Well, you know that we have as our global main project polio eradication, and we've been spectacularly successful at that, including in this part of the world. And you'd be aware that Sri Lanka was the first country in South Asia to be polio-free, which is a great testament to the hard work done here.
Definitely.
So that is the international focus. As well as that, we do lots of other work, from broad international activities right down to what every local club does.
When you talk about the projects that you do in these countries, obviously you have to have some connection with the different governments of the country, the party that is ruling and the politicians. How do you see this connection? Do you all have a good rapport with all of these countries, or is it difficult? How does it work?
Rotary is fiercely non-political and non-partisan. Really important that we do that, because we have to deal with, and we do deal with successfully, governments of every persuasion. So we ignore politics, we get on with the need to address the issues that are there.
Is it easy doing that?
Relatively so, because most people I find around the world are good people. They want to do the best for their constituency. Rotary helps do that.
What if at any point someone wants to make a donation to Rotary, and later on he or she wants to check up on what has happened to that money? Can someone do that?
You mean if they make a contribution to a specific project?
Project, yes.
Absolutely, yes. We are transparent. We are as transparent as you could possibly be.
When it comes to, I'm going into the financial side of things, when it comes to the money that is involved, do you think that Rotary has when you get a certain amount, do you think Rotary divides it into administration costs for Rotary and then carry out the project with the remaining money, or do you all get the lump sum and use it completely for the project? How does that work?
The latter of those two. So if people contribute to a particular project, that's where the funds go. Rotary self-administers. We have 1.2 million people, 35,600 and something clubs right around the world. They handle the administration at a local and international level, so that is taken care of. Projects fund themselves.
When it comes to these, the great work you do, UN has recognized you. You have been awarded a permanent seat in the United Nations. So how do you view this success for the Rotary?
It's prestigious for us to be involved so closely with the United Nations, which we have been since the UN was first chartered in the 1940s, because a lot of Rotarians were involved at the very start. We work closely with the UN and lots of other groups.
Let's come down to our country. Now, yes, Rotary has been operating for quite some time here. Now, there are about 32 clubs operating here as well and doing great work here. The latest projects that you all are carrying out, the Heart Valve project,
yes.
This is going to be an immense, great project for the people of Sri Lanka. When you heard about this for the first time, why did you decide to go ahead with it?
Oh, I didn't decide to go ahead with it. The very impressive local Rotarians decided here was a need in their local community, and they are meeting that need. I'm really impressed by the project because it helps so many people here in Sri Lanka, and I'm looking forward today to seeing it firsthand for myself. It's a very exciting project.
When it comes to projects like this, big projects, when you receive the news that this particular country or this particular district of Rotary is going to carry out a project of this nature, how do you get things together and how do you facilitate it to happen as the president of the head of your club?
No, I don't. What happens is the local clubs and the local district see a need and they facilitate it. They let us know at Rotary headquarters what they're doing, and there are so many wonderful projects right around the world just like this. It is very uplifting. It's an amazing organisation.
According to the statistics that have been provided to me, about 1,500 children will be benefited initially from this project that we are carrying out, and you are also here in the country to symbolically commence proceedings for this great project that is happening. The costs involved, can you tell me a bit about it?
Oh, the detail you would have to talk to our local district governor and the club representatives. What I can tell you is that it's an exciting project, and as you've just pointed out, it benefits so many children here in Sri Lanka, meets a need, and that's what Rotary does. Rotary sees a need and tries to meet it.
With that, we'll go into a short commercial break. Stay with us. We are talking to Mr. Ian Risley, the president of Rotary International. Stay with us. Good evening, welcome back to the show. You're watching our special interview with the President of Rotary International, Mr. Ian Risley. Mr. Risley, let me get back to our topic. When it comes to Rotary International, when it comes to the work you do, what is the most difficult thing that you encountered? On a light note, before we get into serious...
Oh, that's an in-depth question. The most difficult aspect, sometimes funding, sometimes ensuring that the transparency is there, the accountability is there. Rotary is very careful of the stewardship of what it is that we do. We ensure that we have, we try and ensure that we have the capacity to have the whole project transparently obvious to all concerned. We like sustainability. What we don't like to do is come in and say, here's a problem, let's throw money at it, let's go away. Because what happens next year and the year after and the year after that. So sustainability is very important to us, and we have the advantage of 1.2 million Rotarians right around the world on the ground to make sure these things happen.
When you're working for an international NGO like Rotary, there are various issues that specific people, governments want you all to get involved in. Be it in Sri Lanka, if you take the civil war, there were various NGOs getting involved in it, helping out the people, helping various other factions as well, and it got complicated along the way. So do you all have requests from various governments like that to get involved in this and have a look into that sort of thing?
As I said before, we are fiercely non-partisan when it comes to politics. We try and meet needs. Needs are addressed by Rotarians. So if there is a particular issue that we believe we can help in, humanitarian based, then we'll absolutely look at that.
Diplomatically say no to all of these requests that are coming in.
We don't get a lot of people saying, can you please endorse side A or side B, because they know that we take a non-political stance.
So when it comes to a situation like that, obviously working in those countries, if you're doing a certain project, will be hard, because then you don't have that support coming in from the country. So then how do you all cope up with it? Do you all have special people for that, or do you all let it go as it is, or what happens?
We have, and again our advantage is that we have 1.2 million people just about everywhere in the world. So we have a presence on the ground. And our people, our Rotarians, our wonderful Rotarians in Rotary clubs, understand the local status, the local needs.
Well, if there is a situation where one of the smaller clubs in whatever district wants help from a higher authority in Rotary International, can they reach out to that, or do they have a hierarchy to follow? How does that work? Is it a horizontal or a vertical situation?
Our structure is really interesting. We've got, I think it's 537 districts right around the world. One of them covers Sri Lanka. We have a leader in each district, our district governor.
Yeah.
That person is our contact point for whatever happens in that district. So if a club had a need, they'd talk to the district governor. If the district governor could see that there was the need for some sort of greater assistance from the rest of the Rotary world, he or she would say so.
So Sri Lanka and the Maldives is one district, you said. Now, what do you see as the president of Rotary International? You have various clubs, and then when you come to Sri Lanka, what do you see apart from the great work you do already in terms of the Hardware project? What else do you see Sri Lanka can benefit from through the Rotary?
Sri Lanka has a great history of achievement. I think of what happened after the tsunami, when the word went out to the Rotary world from the Rotarians of Sri Lanka for the need to do all sorts of things to rehabilitate particularly schools. I know that one of the Rotary districts in Australia, which happened to have as its governor a person of Sri Lankan ancestry, and he galvanised all of Australia to send lots of funding here to work on schools and so on.
So that works out as well. So a Rotary club in a different country, a different district, can help out a project that is happening.
Oh, can and does all the time, yes. That's one of our strengths, the fact that we're all over the place meeting needs.
So you all are actually, what Rotary does in a way is connect two ends of the people, you know, one helping the other and one receiving support from the other, and it's a relationship that happens.
Yes, everywhere. Yeah.
When it comes to all of this, the world keeps on evolving, and then your task, the good work that you all do, whatever it is, it keeps on rapidly changing as you know, days go by.
Yes, the world does that. Yes.
How do you cope up with all of this that is happening around us?
Again, we have the advantage of people on the ground. So as you're right, as things evolve, as the world changes, and the world changes every day. You know that better than most.
Yeah.
And therefore, we have people there who are in a position to respond to that.
Just before we started these interviews, we spoke about cricket, how all of these countries in our region, you're from Australia, here in Sri Lanka, all of us unite somehow when it comes to sports. Rotary International, I have not, forgive me if I have not done my research properly, but I haven't heard Rotary International going into aspects like that. Sports, you all have a specific path that you all travel on. Am I correct in saying that, or?
Well, sort of. What happens is that there is Rotarians have all sorts of personal interests. You mentioned cricket. There is a group called the International Fellowship of Cricketing Rotarians, or cricket-loving Rotarians, of which I happen to be a member. So when a group of Australian Rotarians comes to India and Sri Lanka, which they have done, play cricket, build up fellowship, close relationship between countries, etc., we certainly adopt that. But in terms of need, the needs are more humanitarian than sporting, much as I'd like to say that the Australian cricket team needs all the help it can get.
I think we can share that the thought is mutual.
Identify with
yes.
it, yes.
When it comes to, once again, with the work you do, you had to, when you're the president-elect of Rotary and when you're the president, 2 years that you spend along those lines, you have to go to your head office in the USA. So basically what you're saying is, let's take a businessman or a person who is carrying out some sort of business operation in a country. If he or she is elected to presidency, that person has to leave everything behind, and that sort of thing. How did you manage? Is that what's happening, and how did you manage it?
My accounting practice is relatively small. I am blessed with having my brother work with me. He runs it when I'm not there. He says, many people agree with him, that it runs better when I'm not there than when I am. So yes, we put it on hold and he maintains the business. And it's the same for any person in my position. It's a full-time position plus a bit, and it's travelling all the time, so it's impossible to stay close to business activities at home.
You spoke about how you got into Rotary at the outset. You said one of the intentions, though small, was that there were business opportunities through Rotary. Yes, it's understood that lots of people connect through Rotary. Do you think that a country like Sri Lanka can attract, we are lacking investments here, even though the government promised some sorts of investments coming in. There was a lack of it. We saw it through the years. Do you think Rotary can help out our country to attract investments coming in from outside?
If I was a business person in Australia and I was considering expansion into a place like Sri Lanka, I know that I could find eminently ethical and trustworthy people on the ground in Sri Lanka through my Rotary contacts. That is one of the very important aspects of what we do. We believe in an ethical approach to things. We have a four-way test of the things we say and do, and we live by that. So we have a commitment to ethical standards, and if I was wanting to do business in Sri Lanka, I know where I could go.
When it comes to all of this, once again, Rotary is what it is because of the people. You've mentioned how you have people on the ground several times in this interview now. When you select a person to Rotary, that person can be of a background, business background, it can be a political background, irrelevant. They decide to come and work with you all to work in the structure that you all have. How does one get selected to Rotary? It's a voluntary, is it a voluntary task, or do they get selected? How does it work?
They're asked to join a particular Rotary club. So what would normally happen is a person would be aware of a Rotary club, would potentially visit, or would be referred on from somewhere else, and they would visit this particular club, and the club would decide whether that person was appropriate for them to join that club or not.
Once again, before we go into another commercial break, I'll ask you a question. I asked this at the outset as well, but let me slightly modify the question I asked you. I asked you why Rotary International, why you chose Rotary International. But let me ask you the other side of it. Why should people like us in the media, or a certain individual who's outside, who's not involved in Rotary, look at Rotary and say, this is Rotary International, this is the good work they do? Because there are various other NGOs in our country, various international NGOs coming in who are saying that they do one thing and who are actually doing something else. Why is Rotary different from that?
I don't know about people who say they're doing one thing and do something else. That's
but let's speak about Rotary.
Let's imagine that's the case.
Yeah.
What we have is, and I'll say it again, a lot of people on the ground in each country and a high ethical standard. Ethics are really important to Rotarians, critically important. So we value our membership. Our organisation is only what it is because of our 1.2 million great people right around the world. We count on them, they count on us.
With that, we'll go into another short commercial break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. We are talking to Mr. Ian Risley, the President of Rotary International, who is here for a very short time. We managed to have a sit down with him and talk to him about the good work Rotary does here and across the world. Mr. Risley, once again, thank you for being with us on the show. Thank you for agreeing to do an interview with us. But let me get to more questions about Rotary and the work you do here. We spoke about how a person is selected to Rotary. We spoke about the ethics and how it is important to you all in Rotary. Since we are in the final segment of our show, let me ask you a question of this nature. We had a 30-year civil war, and during and after the civil war, there were various requests that were needed by the people in the north and the east, and even the people on the other side, the west, down south. People actually needed certain things because they were coming out from a war, and then, you know, it's back into the world. Rotary also came and did various projects here, as you said, the polio eradication. From 1995, we have no cases that have been reported. When it comes to situations like a country that is after war, a country that is going through war, does it have a special attention? Because it's not like a normal country. There are various needs that country needs. How does Rotary look into this?
It doesn't have. It certainly has different needs. It doesn't get special attention. But what happens is a problem is recognised. And you mentioned polio eradication. Bear in mind that the access that was obtained to the conflict areas in the north to immunise the children against polio was facilitated by Rotarians, because we're trustworthy and because that person happens to be a very skilled negotiator and is able to say, Rotary is not taking a political stance, Rotary wants to solve the problem of polio. Arrange ceasefires, immunise the children, and as a result of which, as you said, no cases since way back then.
Obviously, Mr. Risley, when it comes to the world, not everyone thinks the same way. No, someone might think, no, Rotary is up to something. Someone might think that is not, you know, everyone is not going to think you all are all goody-goody. But have you all had instances like that in the past where Rotarians who were on projects have been challenged by various obstacles?
Yes, that has happened particularly in Pakistan and Afghanistan on polio eradication. People ascribe motives to Rotarians and the people who work with us, the immunisers. That's unfortunate. There's been attacks, there's been fatalities. That's desperately sad. What we have to do is finish the task.
When you take a look at a country like Sri Lanka, there are various views among the general public, and as we speak, the governor of Rotary is a Thera, a Buddhist monk. That has a symbolical value as well, because the people have a connection, more connection to the governor. But if it was the other way around, if it was a normal person, layman, if I may say, or a foreigner, then the people have a different ideology. Some people have a different ideology. Say, this is the Western idea coming into our country, this is how the Westerners control our government, that sort of thing. Do you all encounter that along the way in your work as well in different countries?
Our governors, 537 of them right around the world, are local people. We don't bring someone in to run Rotary in a local area.
Is that why? Have you decided to have the governor of that certain district a local? Because in a bid to avoid you know, these unnecessary confusions?
No, because that person represents Rotary in the area. It's natural, logical, essential that that person should come from the area in which that person controls.
So when it comes to all of this, once again, with the people, if I may put it that way, Rotary is Rotary because of the good work these people do. But in case, let's say something goes wrong, who does the, you know, the putting it back right, who does that?
If something goes wrong, we have our local governor, and if there's a problem beyond the capacity of him or her, then we have our head office and our significant staff who are able to investigate that. The board of directors, of which I am chairman, can take action as well if necessary.
So there is a system where you can look into whatever is going on?
Absolutely, yes. And again, part of the reason for that is our transparency and our requirement that everything should be ethical.
Countries like Sri Lanka, countries like, especially in the region, you all have been working, you mentioned Pakistan as well. If you take a look at the region, I want to talk to the businessman in you right now, and not the president of the Rotary International. Countries like us, how can we develop, how can we look into the future? From your experience around the world, with the work you do, what are we lacking here in our country?
Oh, what are you lacking? I'm not in a position to tell you as a businessman what it is you're lacking. What I can tell you, however, is that what Rotary provides is the opportunity for people to make a difference in their communities. That's what we do. There are people of goodwill who are happy to join our Rotary organisation and make a difference to their community and the world, and that's what we do.
The outcome of all of these projects, some successful, some I'm thinking that it might, you have more success stories than you don't, but all of this, it actually, to you personally and all of the presidents of Rotary who have your predecessors and your successors, they will have a certain pride about what Rotary does, and I'm sure all of the members who are representing Rotary who are here with us as we are doing this interview, how do you feel of the work that you do? Because at the end of the day, when I go home after this interview, I feel that I've done a good job talking to you, but it'll be satisfaction for me. How do you view the work you do?
That's a really interesting question. As President-elect for 12 months and then as President, I'm travelling just about continuously. And what is absolutely uplifting is when I go to various parts of the world, some fairly remote, others major cities, the work that's done in the name of Rotary lifts me up every single day. And when you see the work that is done in local communities as well as internationally on things like polio eradication, our youth exchange program, which sends thousands of young people right around the world every year to improve cultural understanding, etc. It is uplifting. It is fabulous. It keeps me going.
Do you have a message to the Rotarians who are working here in our country, the people who want to join Rotary in the future? Do you, as the President of Rotary International, who is here in our country, do you have a message to them?
Well, let me say that I am astonishingly proud of the work that's done in the name of Rotary in Sri Lanka and elsewhere. And we referred to the tsunami rectification work and the heart valve that we're talking about today and polio eradication, all of those great things. We are hugely proud of what it is that Rotary does. For people considering getting involved in Rotary, I would say don't hesitate. Please talk to one of the local clubs and see if there's a natural fit for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Risley, for talking to us on our show. Thank you very much for agreeing to sit and have a chat with us and tell us all about the work that you do, the interesting and good work that you do across the globe here, as well as in our country with regard to this heart valve donation project carried out here. Well, that's all we have for you this evening. Indeed, an interesting chat with the President of Rotary International himself. We will be joining you again with an interesting interview of this nature. Thank you very much for watching.